All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the DrunkFriend podcast, number 15. As always, we are your hosts. I'm Travis, joined by Alex. Alex, how's it going?
It's going. How are you?
Yeah, better this time than last time. I know last week you sounded like work was giving you a hard time.
Well, I think maybe the work bled over to the podcast last week because some sort of mysterious force ended up warping my voice and pitching it down, not only on the recorded version of the podcast, but on the live mic as you and Topspin were talking to me, which is intensely strange.
Top spot, yeah.
Is really weird, yeah. And I'm not sure how that happened. I actually am kind of sure what happened. I'm not going to bore anybody with the details, but it was. I just want to call attention to that and make the audience realize, like, hey, we know that was really weird, and we're sorry, and we're making efforts to make sure it doesn't happen again, or at least I am, because it was my fault.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy being Top Spot and I. We were just chatting with you, and then all of a sudden you were like, hey, something SNES video games, Minneapolis hockey, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, you guys. I mean, it was just like warped, demented, and I sent a message. I was like, hey, man, was your soul taken by Satan, or did you get pitched down? Like, what happened?
Oh, yeah, Satan stopped by and was like, hey, bro, I need your soul for a second. And I was just like, sweet deal. What do I get out of it? And he's like, you can drink all the liquor in the world. It's like Homer Simpson with the donuts.
That's right.
More.
Speaking of liquor, is Pearl, has she made any fun drinks for you tonight?
She is going crazy, making the most delicious drinks possible. She mixed something with, what is that stuff called? It's like the sweet sauce or something like that. I'm butchering the names. Michelle is going to be
syrup?
Yes, sweet syrup, yeah. She's going to be so disappointed in me. She mixed that with pear vodka and violets, creme de violette, I think it was. And we're also mixing Irish whiskey, the Glenlivet, with yellow chartreuse. So I feel like I'm in an episode of Frasier right now talking about these fancy drinks, but both drinks are delicious, and Pearl is a godsend. She's wonderful at making these, and we have our friend Michelle to thank for that, because she is always coming up with great drink ideas for us. So thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, dude, she's been great in the old Polykill Discord, and I gotta say, man, the chartreuse and the whiskey and all that. I mean, it sounds like you by this point, those type of drinks, like you should own your own golf course. Like I feel like those drinks are kind of status drinks, Like you have to drive a sports car, sip on that a little bit. Well, like there's something about drinking those drinks and then still sitting on your like cat hair covered couch watching 90 Day Fiance. It feels like the rest of my life should also be upgraded if I'm going to drink those things.
On my granite floors with my refrigerated air, cooling my house. And yeah, it's... By the way, refrigerated air is very uncommon in Albuquerque. We have swamp coolers here, and as a result of these crappy swamp coolers, it's about 82 degrees in my house right now, so I am sweating to the oldies right now. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you're sweating out all that alcohol.
What's the weather like in your part of in the woods over there?
Yeah, well, I am in the woods, Virginia. Yeah, it's not bad. It's humid most of the time. That's the thing, but it's all right. It's pretty temperate. I kind of live in the hills, so I get a little bit of everything.
Is it like 80s, 70s?
It's 77 outside right now.
That
so
sounds
not too bad.
That sounds really comfortable. I think it's about 97 out here right now. It's about
I believe it.
It's mid 80s in the house. So Well, I'll live.
It's two old guys talking about the weather again. I'm actually drinking a New Realm. I've never had this before. It's a New Realm Brewing Company is the name of it. It's in a can. Got a little 12-pack variety pack, and I'm drinking a Hoptropolis. IPA. So that's fun.
Well, we
Juicy
just
hops.
lost our Sam Adams endorsement. I just got an email right now, the second you said that, saying, "How dare you?" No, I'm just kidding. No, that's
I was pretty happy to see that variety pack come to an end. To be quite honest with you, so sorry, Sam. Sorry about that.
Sam
But,
Adams
cruising through the
himself
variety
is
packs.
turning in his grave. But no, that sounds good. I've never heard of that stuff before. That sounds good though.
Yeah, me neither. It snuck right up on me.
Nice.
Actually, the only reason I got this is not really a good story or a funny story, but when I was at the supermarket, I was going to get a 12-pack of beer or a crate or a case of beer. Part of most of the coolers were blocked off because the guy that was stocking them had dropped a box and there was like beer and glass everywhere, so I
Ooh.
couldn't get to any others except this one. So
Oh, wow.
God said, "Take this home." That was the sign from the good Lord, I'm sure.
It had to be.
Anyway.
What
Yeah.
was there a light coming from the sky spotlighting that particular? Oh,
I was like, is that a
and a
voice
chorus
in the
of
cooler?
angels?
Yeah, it was just like that. So anyway, I didn't get it for free though. The Angels could have helped out a little more if you ask me.
jeez.
But
Angels,
I know,
at least
so I had to pay for it.
at least pick up the bill, Angels. Come on, if you're gonna sing from the
Seriously.
heavens, just at least fork over some cash.
Toss a $5 in. You know what I'm saying? Speaking of tossing money at things, Super Game Station. Of course, we have the Drunk5 discount code. If you go to supergamestation.com for the rest of this month, I know there's only a couple days left, but for the rest of this month, you can go there, get some retro games. We know, you can't get out thrifting these days. You can't go to the flea market, but you can go to supergamestation.com. Use that Drunk5 discount code for 5% off. And I mention that again because it seems like one of our listeners out there, some high roller, probably drinking chartreuse mixed with whatever whiskey. They went out and they got an Earthbound from that website, which is pretty incredible. I got a text from Super Game Station that was like, "Dude, you won't believe what just happened." So that's cool. Whoever out there got that Earthbound with the discount code, that's awesome. We appreciate it.
That's so cool. I love it. That's really, really cool. You're helping out a local business, first of all, which is tremendous.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the website now, and I can't help but be selfishly consumed by the fact that Uncharted Waters New Horizons is still on the website for $39.99. If any of you out there listening buy that game, I will come to your house and give you a good talking to because I want that game. I just have to wait until the end of the week before before my paycheck comes in, and I want to make sure I get it. But Uncharted Waters New Horizons is a very, very good game. It's one of the rare kawaii games that's actually very good, and it's an open-ended. It's an open-ended.
You mean it's not boring as hell?
Yeah, it's not boring
just
as hell.
maps for hours.
Yes, with a broken ass UI that's like impossible to use. No, this game is actually really good. It's really fun, and the soundtrack is amazing, and it's a fantastic game because it's like the Super Nintendo version of Pirates, Sid Meier's Pirates, I should say. It's not quite as polished as that, but it is pretty dang good. It's a really fun game. I don't own it on cartridge, but I have played it a lot, and I've always wanted to own it. I think $40 is a fair price for that game, considering the amount of content it has, because it's a rare open-ended 16-bit game. So I really, really want to get this. Please don't get it before I do. Listen, if you do, that's fine. I'm just, being facetious and whatever. Enjoy the game. But I really want to get it, and I want to get it from this place. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Say, you come into someone's house and giving them a stern talking to. That could be a kink, That could be that could be a Patreon perk for you if you really wanted to. People
A
might sign up for
stern
that.
talking to. Listen,
You
son.
get some weird requests.
It's gonna be like Mongo when he approaches British Bulldog in the garage. Listen, son.
Yeah, that's so good. If you
Inside joke there,
to let the audience in on that, you have to check out What Will Mongo Do Next on Twitter. It's just a series of
it's my
gifs and videos of maybe the worst, the most. I don't know. He's a terrible wrestler, but he's entertaining because he doesn't know what he's doing. It's hilarious.
It's like the Mystery Science Theater of wrestling. It's a delight. Every clip is just hysterically funny because he's so awkward. And he's not a natural wrestler. He's a football player. Like, he was the nose tackle for the Chicago Bears throughout the 80s and early 90s, and he decided it would be a good idea to get into wrestling, I guess. And he's such an awkward fit for pro wrestling, and it shows. Every instance of every one of his matches shows. And it's just hysterical. And there's this one, my favorite clip of all time of him is when WCW apparently was like, okay, let's put you in a feud with British Bulldog. We don't know what else to do with you, so go fight Bulldog. I was like, okay. So he goes, he walks in, Bulldog's just hanging out, having his coffee, having a nice evening, I guess. And Mongo just walks up to him and just starts talking like, listen, boy, you don't sit there drinking coffee when a man's talking to you, boy. And he slaps the coffee out of his hand, and they start brawling. And even the announcers are like, oh boy, here we go. It's Mongo and Bulldog. Oh boy. They can't work up any enthusiasm because it's so lame. And I just can't get enough of it because it's just so funny.
Yeah, everything he does is bad. Technique, the things he says, the way he walks seems bad.
Yeah, he's just an awkward guy.
Awkward dude.
Yeah, he's just not. He's athletic, but athletic in a weird way, I guess is the best way to put it. But yeah, we digress. Mongo's a fun guy, but that Twitter account has really made my quarantine basically.
Speaking of awkward, this transition into emails. We have a few from some listeners. I'll get started here. One from Matt. We read the first part of Matt's email last episode. We're going to finish it off right here. He goes on to say, I did actually have a retro video game related question for your retro video game related podcast. I purchased a PS1 Classic recently. When I was growing up, I didn't own one, but many of my friends had them, so I had a decent amount of exposure to many of the games. What are your thoughts on the PS1 Classic? I know there are a lot of strong feelings about the stock lineup, which admittedly isn't that great, but it did capture a lot of the essentials. He lists Metal Gear, Final Fantasy VII, Tekken, and Resident Evil, and goes on to say, but definitely leaves a lot to be desired. In relation to that, what are your must-adds for the PS lineup? Cheers, gents, Matt. So quickly, do you have a list, like a short list of games that maybe should have been on there that was not?
I think with I don't know the PS1 Classic lineup front and back off the top of my head, so I would have to look it up. But when I think of PlayStation, I think of RPGs. And as much, I have a lot of conflicted feelings and emotions about Chrono Cross, but I think it needed to be on there. I think as long as you don't think of that game as a direct Chrono Trigger sequel, I think it's a good enough game on its own. I think stuff like Vagrant Story definitely deserved a spot on there. I think stuff like Breath of Fire 3, some more of the is Final Fantasy 9 on there? Because that is one of the most understated, one of the better Final Fantasy games of the time. 9 was
I don't
really
think so. I think Final Fantasy VII is the only Final Fantasy on there.
Yeah, I would definitely put 9 on there. Other than that, yeah, I would just think of RPGs like I'm trying to find the list here to see if like Xenogears and even that stuff is on there. I'm guessing not. But yeah, just
no Xenogears.
Yeah, more RPGs is what I would say. More roleplay, because that's what I think of when I think of PlayStation. It was kind of the golden age of a lot of those bigger, it felt like a continuation of what the Super Nintendo started with games like Breath of Fire 2, Lufia 2, Chrono Trigger, all that sort of stuff. So
yeah,
the fact that was kind of ignored. Yeah, I'm looking at the list now. Oh, geez. Yeah, there's nothing on here for, Saga Frontier. What?
You got Wild Arms.
Oh, Wild Arms is good, yeah. But Saga Frontier
like
was on the Japanese release. Why? Oof, that's rough. Siphon Filter is good, though. That's a good one. But yeah, just more role-playing game stuff is what I wish was on there. What about you?
I'm surprised that Parasite Eve is not on the North American version.
That's a surprise.
I think that would have been a good ad. When I think of the PS1, I actually think a little bit more some of the platformers and stuff. Like, well, if you consider Tomb Raider a platformer, I mean, it's mostly that. Tomb Raider, though, is a game that I think of, the whole series.
For sure,
PS1. And Crash and Spyro. I know there's certainly licensing issues and all that stuff that comes into play with that. But those are the games that I think of when I think of the PS1. So, yeah, it's not a great lineup. I mean, there's really... maybe even Medieval. Maybe that's kind of niche, but I think of that game, too.
I've never even heard of that. What is that?
Yeah.
What is that game?
Oh, it's like a... I don't know. It's sort of an open... I don't even really know how to explain it, to be honest with you. But you're like a little skeleton guy. It's kind of like goofy, spooky... 3D action.
Oh, sorry to put you on the spot there. I was just like, hey, that sounds cool. But yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of...
It's pretty cool, actually, yeah.
I'm not seeing a lot of other stuff here. Like, okay, Rayman, that's good. Resident Evil Director's Cut, that's good. And then there's like... Jumping Flash? Intelligent Cube? Huh? Like, it's just some very strange choices here. But, yeah.
Yeah.
Very odd.
For sure. Next one from Captain. He's emailed us before. Thank you, Captain, for reaching back out. We always appreciate it. He says, hello again, guys. After listening to your podcast today, I decided to listen to another one. Not ours. He listened to the Completely Unnecessary podcast with Pat Contry and Ian Ferguson. Two good guys there.
Yeah, good
and
guys.
Pat mentioned... Two good guys there. And Pat mentioned a new wrestling game coming out soon. It's called Retromania Wrestling and is the direct sequel to WWF WrestleFest. I know Alex has covered that game in the past, but I thought I'd let you guys know in case it wasn't on your radar. Great podcast again today, Captain. So what do you think of Retromania Wrestling? I know graphically, just looking at screenshots from me, it passes the eye test.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely passes the eye test. It looks like the initial release date is sometime in July 2020. I'm really excited for this because I love WrestleFest. It's very simple gameplay. I would almost say it's button mash gameplay, but the big selling point was the pixel art. It was the larger than life sprites. It was you got Mr. Perfect and Big Boss Man and Demolition and Legion of Doom and all those guys. And we do in fact have Legion of Doom in Retromania Wrestling, and it looks fantastic. It's on Switch, PS4, Xbox, and PC, and I swear I'm not being paid to say this. And what I really like is that there's a bunch of ECW guys in this from the Blue World Order. Back when ECW was really hitting its stride in the mid-90s, when they were like a parody of mainstream wrestling, their spin on the New World Order was the Blue World Order. And so they had Big Stevie Cool instead of Big Daddy Cool, Stevie Richards. And he's one of my all-time favorites. I love Stevie Richards. And there's also the Blue Meanie and... I forget the third guy, but it's not in front of me at the moment. But
Hollywood Nova.
Hollywood Nova, yeah. Supernova became Hollywood Nova, yeah. He's a very good wrestler. And we've also got guys like Colt Cabana, Tommy Dreamer, another ECW guy. Austin Idol, holy cow, that's a name from the past. There's a lot of... And Johnny Retro. Is that a spin on like Johnny Nitro? That's crazy. Yeah, I'm really excited for this game.
Oh, yeah.
It really looks good, and I'm excited to... The pixel art, especially, is... You can't help but be excited when you see it. So, yeah, heck yeah. I may do a Thursday video on this once it comes out, because I love this kind of stuff. It's right up my alley.
Awesome, man. Yeah, glad to hear it. I'd be excited to see a video on this one. I don't know a lot of the references to this. I'm pretty into wrestling, but I was never that much into ECW, so this is kind of new territory for me, but it does look great.
Definitely looks great. Let me read this next email here. We've got another email from our friend Jono. He's written before. He says, "Hey there, drunk friends. Got to say I'm loving the fact that you don't feel you are entirely tied to talking only about gaming on the podcast. We definitely don't. It allows you to actually just have a conversation, which gives the whole show a far more comfortable feel. Anyway, my question for you is, what are the biggest misconceptions that people have about people who have careers in YouTube? Have a great weekend, Jono." Do you want to go first?
Well, I wouldn't say that we have careers per se. I mean, we have like, I guess if we like stopped putting up YouTube videos, we might say our YouTube career has come to an end.
Yeah.
But it's not like all we do, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's what he means. If I were to point to like a misconception, it might be that YouTubing is our only hobby. Like I know, and this is true for when I think of you, Alex, because you've been doing SNES Drunk for so long. I associate you at this point with the face of Hagar and the logo of the Super Nintendo. Like everything about you and your videos is now somewhat synonymous with the Super Nintendo as a whole. And so if you were to tell me like, yeah, and on the weekends I like to go fishing, I'd be like, no way. There's no way. First of all, you don't have the time for that. And two, you're only Super Nintendo. That's all you think about. I know this because that's all about you I've been exposed to. So I think that's kind of a misconception, is that we are 100% what we, produce. And I think even with Pam recently of Cannot Be Tamed, she just started a makeup channel. And so, she has an a hobby adjacent to gaming as well that you might not expect. So what about you, Alex? Do you have a misconception, or do you have something about you that a side hobby that maybe listeners wouldn't know about?
Yeah, I think you hit on it really, especially with the first part. Especially like YouTube isn't my career. I do have a job, a regular 9 to 5 at a community college, and I don't treat that lightly. I really do like the people that I work with. I like the work that I do, and I am very, very thankful for the opportunity that I have to work where I do, because it's a community college, and it's kind of in the center of town. And we do a lot of outreach toward, helping education become a priority for more people that need it, so to speak. That's really something that's always been very important for me as a person, because not to get off on too much of a tangent, but, I kind of got off to a bad start when I got into the workforce. I was working at call centers, and you know how it is, and especially in the United States, where it's like, okay, you've got call center experience, on your resume. That means you will get nothing but call center jobs forever and ever, as long as you live. And I got kind of trapped in that throughout my 20s, and it was miserable. And then I managed to catch on. I got very lucky, and managed to catch on with a school and in Minnesota, and that really changed me big time, because it was like, oh, these people that I'm talking to on the phone and online, on chat and whatever, on email, these people are trying to better themselves. Like, they're really honest to goodness people that are just like, hey, I want to go to school. I want to, whether it's trying to get a bump on their pay, or if they just want to, go through on a promise that they made their parents or they made their significant other, like, hey, I'm going to go get a degree. And I hear those stories all the time, and it always touches me. And so I am pretty passionate about education. I think it's really, really important. I'm not thrilled with how the education system in this country is structured, where you have to pay all these thousands of dollars to show you have a piece of paper, and you're pressured to make a decision when you're 18 years old about what you want to do with the rest of your life. I think that's completely unfair and stupid. It's like, I didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life until I was like 30. Like I think that's just ridiculous. So
yeah,
that's just me. But
I mean, I just to put a bow on this one, I just got my second advanced degree, and I'm 35, and I still have no idea what I want to do. The thing for me was, when I didn't know what I wanted to do, I just kept going back to school.
Yeah.
Can't do that forever. Got to figure it out.
No, you're not alone with that either. That's how my old roommate Jessica was, where she got her doctorate in clinical psychology. And I remember her reaction after the fact was like, is this all there is? Like, is this all I have to do? Like, there's not more? And I'm not sure how much of that was just the the scholastic part of her, where it was just like you always have to keep going and always have to keep writing papers and going to classes.
It does feel that way, yeah.
Yeah, and she was just like, that's it? Like, what do I do now? And yeah, I feel you on that. I've known people that have gone through that same thing.
No doubt. All right, so now I guess it's time for our main event. We have our guest coming on, should be familiar to a lot of folks, but if you've not heard of Mega Drive Profile, I think you're in for a treat. Alex, you go a little ways back with this guy.
Oh, he's tremendous. He does great work with, and you know, his title is very prescriptive. His title is very descriptive. Mega Drive Profile. He does big time profiles on the games that he loves. And that's what I admire about this guy. He doesn't waste time with games he doesn't like. Whereas weirdos like me, I like understanding why I don't like games. Whereas this dude is like, hey, I like what I like. I want to understand why I like it, and I want to explain to other people why I like this. And
exactly
what he likes is run and gun stuff like Alien Soldier, Gunstar Heroes, Eliminate Down. A lot of games I am terrible at that I will die within the first 20 seconds of playing. Adventures of Batman and Robin's another one. I'm awful at that game. But this dude has got all that stuff down. And I really like his format because you can really feel the passion about how he feels about these games come through on his videos. He really takes a lot of time to explain. He has a lot of respect for his audience, I would say. He goes through it's almost like a game facts video.
Yeah, exactly.
So to speak. Yeah, he does a very thorough job of like, hey, once you get to this part of the game, here's what you do. I really appreciate about that channel. So I'm really excited to talk to him.
Yeah, man, he's got some of the best music too in a lot of his videos, and like you said, it's like some of it's like a walkthrough. He's very skilled, which adds some credence to everything he says. So without further ado, Mega Drive Profile. Mr. Drive Profile, if that is your real name. How are you doing tonight? Thanks for joining us, and are you partaking in a beverage as our drunk friend guest?
Sadly, no. I only have water on me.
That's okay.
That's a beverage.
Top spot last week was into the fire water without the fire. It's totally acceptable.
Yeah, I gotta stay hydrated.
Is it tap water? Is it that refreshing mountain water with the beautiful water label? You know, the label on it with the mountains and all that sort of stuff, or are we just talking? What kind of water are we talking? We need details, man. That's all I'm saying.
You named both types of water, like there was going to be a long list.
It's from the purest, finest oasis you can find.
There we go. Now we got my imagination stirring. There we go.
Fantastic. Well, thanks for coming on, MDP. We really appreciate your time. We know you're busy rocking out to Genesis and Mega Drive soundtracks and all that stuff, so thanks for taking the time to hang out with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we really like your work on YouTube. So, first of all, to start this out, I gotta ask, why do you hate the Super Nintendo? And I want you to show me on the doll where the Super Nintendo hurt you.
Well, I would point towards the power button because that's what makes it work.
That's a great response right there. No, seriously though, like I saw that in another interview that you did not too long ago with another website that shall not be named. You stated that you started with a Genesis when you were like 4 or 5 years old, and that was your first video game console. So that must have made a big impression on you, obviously. So what were your first games? Do you remember the first game you rented? How big of an impression did that make on you at that time?
Well, it was a pretty. It's something. I know a lot of people have a hard time remembering. When they were like that age, 4 or 5, but. That is a very distinct memory to me. And when I first got my Genesis, I don't exactly remember the actual event, but I know I had it, right, and it was mine. I was living with my aunt at the time, and my grandma was there, and she would always hang out with me. when I was playing video games, and the Genesis was like, I was just in love with that thing, dude. It was the best thing ever. And the first game I ever played on it was Sonic 3. That was the first thing, and I loved it, dude. I couldn't stop playing. I think I was playing that game so much that eventually, like, I think my uncle took me to Toys R Us to pick out a new game because he was tired of seeing it. Yeah, man, it was, that was one. I think I got I think after Sonic, I know I had Gunstar Heroes. I did have that. That was another game I did get. It was a pretty beat up copy from what I remember. I don't think I have it anymore, but
we've endorsed that one on this podcast as the best Genesis game. I think that's a DrunkFriend declaration.
I would call it the best Genesis game ever. Yeah. Gunstar Heroes.
What's your opinion, being the Genesis guy?
It's honestly, dude, it's not a bad pick at all. Like, I can't. It's seriously a good game, and I remember specifically too when I made the video on Gunstar that SNES Drunk, he actually commented telling me, like, dude, like, I totally didn't know this was in the game. And basically, like, in Gunstar Heroes, like, yeah, you could shoot around and do, weapon combos and all that stuff, but you can also do, like, a cool, like, air dive, like a melee move, right?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah.
Yep, and that's, like, something that, well, some people don't really experiment, they just think it's just a shooting game, but yeah, you could do other cool little tricks like that. So, Gunstar Heroes is a magnificent game. Treasure is easily, like, my favorite developer, like, ever. Like, hell yeah, they're the best.
That's one of those things that kind of gets lost with retro games nowadays, and it's tough to recover because now the easiest way to play retro games now is with emulation, with ROMs and that sort of thing. But what's lost in that is that we lose manuals. When you rent a game, at least in my experience, you get some semblance of a copy of a instruction manual. In my experience, it was when you rented from Mr. Movies or Video Update, it was a very crappy Xeroxed copy of an instruction manual that was black and white. It was folded together very crudely. It was stapled together with one staple. It was falling apart, and it was everything just kind of like thrown together, but it was invaluable. It was like, hey, here's everything you need to know about this game. I remember when I rented Contra 3, it was one of the first games I rented as a kid. It came with a black and white copy of the manual from Mr. Movies, which was a thing in the Twin Cities, Minnesota back in the late 80s. And nowadays it feels like when you play these games on ROMs, you're missing out on that because it doesn't come with anything. You just have a ROM, you have your controller, you have your emulator, or maybe you have a flash cart, or maybe you have a repro cart or something like that, but you've got nothing to go by. You just got to figure out everything by yourself. And yeah, with a game like Gunstar Heroes, it's like, oh, there's all this extra stuff that you got to figure. There's all the, you might not know that there's extra functionality with that kind of stuff. So I feel like Genesis games have a little bit more of that, especially the run and gun games like Alien Soldier and Gunstar Heroes.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. Like, wow, I couldn't I couldn't put that in better words. Like, there's just things that developers, when they make these games, at least back then, when they make them, that you would have no idea, like, unless you read the instruction manual. Like, you would probably play the game for 10 years and you wouldn't know anything until you read it. Like, it's amazing. And one of the coolest things about at least on Genesis, because I'm not too sure on Super Nintendo, but I know on the Genesis, like, Sega Retro has an expansive archive. Like, I mean, they go really deep into preserving all the game covers, and especially the instruction manuals. They're all in PDF format, and you can read through them in case, like, you decide to load up a game, like, now, right, in the present time. And you can actually, see, like, exactly everything that is in the game, and, all the moves you can do. And I think it's a great resource, man. Sega Retro is an absolute monster of a resource for for anybody who's into Sega gaming, especially on Mega Drive. They have it's pretty well documented.
So both of you do some import stuff for your channel on occasion, and a big part of what I do when I'm researching the games that I use on NESFriend, I rely on the manuals pretty heavily. If anything else, for of course, for backstory to make sure I didn't miss like a certain pickup I need to show or something like that. For a lot of those imports that didn't make it over here to North America, the manuals are obviously a little bit of a barrier because they're not always in English. Are there resources where those are translated? How do you guys sort of navigate that part of the video making process?
Well, for me, like it's like I said, because Sega Retro is really generous in that department. Like you will get, so let's say there's one game, right, and it was released across Japan, and also Europe, and maybe in some cases the U.S., right? So a lot of the times, I've come to realize that the PAL versions of a lot of Mega Drive games are almost they're pretty good translations of the Japanese, of the Japanese manual. But if a game is only Japanese, though, that's where you have to do a lot of experimentation.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of imagination comes into play.
Definitely
like, into that. Like you have to look at the pictures and be like, okay, I guess this is what happens if you. Sometimes they'll use like the actual buttons inside, like in between, like the kanji or whatever, and you kind of gotta like scrimmage and just figure it out. Like, yeah, it's you kind of use a lot of your imagination when it comes to that. Some games are real self-explanatory, like like you don't really need to really even read the manual. Sometimes like it might not even be necessary. So yeah.
I was just curious if there was some resource out there that actively translated any of those that weren't already in English.
There's certain games like for Super Famicom, I know that they're so straightforward that they just put them up as is without even bothering to put up an English translation at all on the Virtual Console. For like the Wii, I think one game was Do Re Mi Fantasy. I think it's, what is the subtitle, like Doki Doki no Dai Boken or something like that, like something adventure. But they just didn't even bother translating that game at all. They just like left the Japanese text in the game. They're like, okay, this is good enough. We're just going to put it up on the Wii console or Wii Virtual Console. And but as far as manuals go, I think that's the next big frontier, I guess I would say, is that we're still getting big translations done on all these big role-playing games, but I can't think of any manuals that anybody has bothered to translate yet. That seems like the next big thing. Like I don't think there's anything that's even approached that like at all. That's a good point you bring up, Travis, though. It's like,
yeah, that is a great point.
It's like, we still have all this work to do.
You're right, because some guys would go through the incredible, trouble of translating the entire game, but they're like, oh, there's still the manual though. Like,
yeah,
how will people actually know how to play this?
Yeah, there could be some like game mechanics that nobody even knows about. Who knows? It's crazy.
Yeah. Or even some, even if it's backstory. I mean, just
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff in there that's lost to the language barrier a lot of the times. But yeah, maybe one day.
Maybe one day, if we day by day now, we get more and more bored Japanese language students that are out there that are looking for something to do. So I wanted to ask you, MDP, what were the first games that you rented as a Genesis fan, and were there anything that kind of took you by surprise? Were there any like games that you were kind of like at your wit's end, like say for example, like, oh, this game is checked out, it's the game I wanted to get, I'll settle for this? Like, was there any experience like that where it was like, oh, I'll settle for this game, and it turned out to be something really good for you?
Well, I gotta be honest, and I gotta say that I don't think I actually rented a Genesis game before, and the reason why is because, and I should have probably disclosed this too, but I was pretty young back then. Like, I mean, I was a kid. I was like 4 or 5 by the time I got my Genesis, and you know, I think a lot of the stores didn't really carry those games anymore. At that point, the PS1, the N64 were like, and the Dreamcast were like the thing. That's all you would really. I distinctly remember seeing that a lot. Like, I don't think I found any Genesis stuff. The only place I was selling them where I was at was Toys R Us. Like, they had like the little stand, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't even be the actual cartridge. It would just be like a little slip or like a paper or something. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, let me rephrase then. When did you first discover emulation, and when you start getting into like, or I maybe not even emulation, just like collecting and finding out more about the Genesis, if there are any games that you came across, whether it be with finding stuff on eBay, finding stuff on Amazon, or finding stuff via emulation, if there's anything that took you by surprise, or anything that you really would have, that you found that you really liked since you started this hobby.
That is a great question. Well, I could tell you for a fact that when I think I had a PS2 or GameCube. I forgot which system I had it for, but I didn't get to play all the Sonic games, on the Genesis on hardware right at the time. Like, I only played 3. So eventually Sega made this really great compilation of old Sonic games called the Sonic Mega Collection. And in this collection, it had Sonic 1, 2, 3, and Knuckles, and 3D Blast, and I think it had some extra goodies that you can unlock. And that is how I actually, from there, that's where it really started for me, because I played all those games, and I'm like, oh, I think Rystar was on there too. And I played that on there, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, what? I was so blown away, man. I was like, I gotta find more. What else is on this console? I gotta find out what there's gotta be more to this than
Nice.
These games, even though those were amazing.
Yeah.
And I think years went by, and whatchamacallit, I finally got like my own computer. It was a pretty it was a pretty shoddy laptop, but it was still a good one. And
Whoa.
like, wait, did you guys hear that?
No, I
No.
think you cut out there for a second.
Okay, yeah, sorry. I'm not sure what happened. I forgot what's the last thing you heard.
Just you had Rystar on your collection, and then
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so the Mega Collection had a Rystar on it, and after I played that, it was amazing. And I was like, okay, I want to find out more. Like, what else is on this console that I can play. I'd already played Sonic 3. I did have Gunstar, that was amazing too, but I wanted more. So years went by, and eventually I got my own, like, it was a laptop. It wasn't even a desktop. It was a laptop. It was an alright one, it was decent. And I think I found out about emulation, and I was like, is this okay? Like,
that's
like,
normally how it is. Yeah.
yeah, like, I didn't understand the whole concept. It was new to me. Like, I never knew how people, like, I never knew that people did this. And it was funny because I came to find out, later that emulation was actually pretty old at that point. Like, there were already existing Genesis emulators back in like the mid to late 90s.
Yeah,
Windows
Genesis.
1. That's right. It wasn't a great one, but
No, it was terrible, but it worked.
Yes, and so I found this emulator called Kega Fusion.
That's right. Yeah, that's still in circulation now.
Correct. And to me, it did everything. Like it played, it even played Master System. It played, Sega
Yeah.
CD. It did everything. It was amazing. And from there, dude, it was history. Like I just started downloading it. I started any game that looked interesting. I just started downloading it and I started playing. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is this is amazing. I don't think. I think I did have my Genesis, my old one at that point. I have no idea where it was, but I had it somewhere, and eventually did end up finding it. And I started trying to buy some of the old stuff I couldn't get when I was younger. But yeah.
So your journey here is kind of interesting in that it sounds like, you're a little younger than what I would typically think for someone who would be really into the retro scene, right? Like you said, you were 4 or 5. It sounds like about the time that Sonic 3 hit, which was late in that console's lifespan. And it wasn't until, 2 generations later almost before you sort of rediscovered the system. So you being someone looking backward at what I'm assuming is somewhere around your teenage years, maybe, what were your contemporaries doing? Like your friends, like did they think you were the weird kid that only cared about Sega Genesis? Like how did that work?
That is so funny, man. I gotta say, just cracks me up. But okay, so at that time, Trav, I think the 360 had, yeah, the 360 was like 2 years old at that point. That was like '07, by the way. So I was a fan like of old and new, and I still am, by the way. Like I still love new games. I think are awesome. Well, depending, right? I'm a lot more picky, but I think they're both still great. Anyhow, what was I gonna say? My friends were generally speaking into just newer games. Like I guess at the PS2 was still pretty popular back then at that year. Like it's still, yeah, games were still being released for it. I think until like '08 is when it really started to like decline. But yeah, they were all into 360. They were playing like Halo 3. Like I remember that was like one of the biggest games that year. I think Call of Duty 4 was another one that was pretty big that year, which I still play to this day. And yeah, man, like retro video games to them were not like, they weren't awful, but they were they were really into it. Like not as much as I was. I was definitely, I don't think I really even told them about it either.
Wow, so you had to hide your obsessions from your friends.
I don't know, man. Like it was such a weird time.
That's cool though, man. So switch gears, let's talk a little bit about your channel. A few of your videos take on a much longer tutorial format, and SNES Drunk and I certainly consider anything over 6 minutes to be like super duper long. So your much longer tutorial format, some of your videos extend to 30 minutes or so. Like Alien Soldier, you have one on Eliminate Down, Adventures of Batman and Robin. How do you go about collecting information for these videos? It's a lot of research.
Okay, so it's yeah, it is a lot, and you're right. The thing is that every time I decided I'm gonna cover a game, I play probably, I try to beat it at least twice, and if I really like it, I'll probably even beat it a third time.
Wow.
And I make sure that I get good at it. That's the most important thing to me. I make sure that I understand this game, because like I don't review in a very typical fashion. Like it's almost like I explain people how to play this game,
right,
in a sense, like I kind of just go over. That's why I actually show in a lot of the Mega Drive videos, I show the instruction manuals, and I kind of go over the controls, and I'm like, look, this is what you can do in this game, this does this, yada yada, and I just try to make sure that I understand this game, because I don't want to make a video and try to present something that I have no idea what I'm talking about. It's always important to me to make people understand, like, like I played this game, I try to do, I mess around with it, see what I can do, and then the footage you see in the video is probably from like my last playthrough that I'm like, okay, this is the one where I'm gonna use the footage for this game, because you want to make your videos look good too, man. Like, you know, you want the footage to be representative of what you're talking about, and if you're enthusiastic about something, well, the gameplay has got to be enthusiastic. You know, it's got to be exciting too to watch, and I try to incorporate that. I usually, the thing is too is that I don't really talk about games that I don't like on the channel either. That's another thing. I'm not a big fan of covering stuff that I know I'm not gonna enjoy, because there are other people who do that already, and they do it much better than I do, or I would. So it's never a big thing for me to play a game that, especially one that I'm not into or I just don't have any interest in. It's not really my thing, you know. I try to show games that I think are really cool, that I think people would play, and that's just, yeah, you know, it just looks awesome. Something that anybody would enjoy, or at least I think would enjoy.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, actually, because thinking about, you know, the energy that your intro has, and like everything's like wow metal, it would be it would be weird if you went through like that whole ride at the beginning for you to just be like, meh, this game kind of sucks. Like, it would totally be a very tonal shift. So I think that's good, actually. I like that. So that's kind of reassuring in that if you do subscribe to Mega Drive Profile, you're going to get, you know, pretty good vibes and see some pretty good games. I think that's good.
Yeah, it's not going to be like, dun 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 dun. Bubsy is kind of shitty. No thanks.
That'd be a good April Fool's video, though, if I'm not going to lie.
You know,
yeah, it'd be pretty funny, I guess.
You guys crack me up, man. I do want to say though that, you know, that if you do cover games that you know that you don't like, but you cover them anyways, I think that's still a good balance, man. Because, you know, I know it sounds funny coming from me, right? But it's still nice to see some variety, and that's something that I'm 100% guilty that I don't have any. Like, a lot of the games I cover are pretty similar, you know. They're almost, I can't say that you're gonna see the same game every time, but it's the same genres, you know. You're not gonna find a whole lot of variety. Like, you're not gonna see like a point and click game or something. You're not gonna see any of that stuff. Like, it's not that they're bad, it's not that or any of that stuff. It's just it's not something that I'm into, you know. And that's also another thing I'd like to say, is that you're also not going to see every Mega Drive game either, and that's not my mission.
Do you hear that, SNES Drunk? He's not going to do all the games on Earth.
Why not? You're not
like
gonna
some people.
You're not gonna do Bill Lambier's Combat Baseball on Mega. You know, didn't he have a Mega Drive port on? I don't know. I'm just.
Just, you know, I think I've gotten people telling me like, "Hey, dude, you know, do video on this game,"
I hear you on that. I get that, you know, all the time. Yeah.
and I think to myself, I already know what this game is. Like, I know that I'm not going to enjoy this.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what you do. Is like you do like as Trav said, it's in the notes here. It's stem to stern. I don't even know what that means, but I think it's like a sailor, like a ship.
I think it's about plants.
Some kind of, yeah. What does that mean? I don't even know what that means.
Stem to stern. I was, you know, I wrote it in the sheet. I was like stem to stern, which I believe is. Now I'm wondering. I thought it was a botany related thing, but I was going to ask how long it takes to put it together. The whole video,
stem to
thing.
Stern. I thought it was like something to do with Howard Stern, but what? I'm not totally sure. But no, I'm just kidding.
I don't think that's right.
No, that I think people. You've been doing this long enough now, MDP, that people should understand what they should expect from your channel at this point, where it's like, okay, this is like, especially with the types of games you do, like Eliminate Down, like, holy crap, that game is hard. Like, so I'm curious to ask, like, what other games do you plan on covering, stem to stern, so to speak? Like from beginning to end, like what about like Musha or say like some other? My dogs are going crazy. Sorry about that. If you can hear that.
Oh, I can.
Oh, we'll definitely edit that out. But yeah, are you thinking about other shoot 'em ups like Musha or Thunder Force 4 or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thunder Force 4 in particular has been like, I think I've gotten at least a good couple emails about that. Especially in my Discord too. Like I got someone who's a really big Thunder Force guy, and he's like, "Dude, you got to do Thunder Force 4." And I tell him I'm going to do it, and he's like, "Yeah, but you got to do Thunder Force 1 too."
Oh, I know, right? Yeah. You got to do all of them in one big video.
And I'm just like, "You know what, dude? I'll do it for you, man." Even though I think that Thunder Force really got its wings with 3 and onward, I think as a tribute to the series, I wouldn't mind exploring the first 2 games as well. So yeah.
Let me ask you this, because since we're on the subject, Thunder Force 3 is really, really good on Genesis. It got a Super Nintendo port called Thunder Spirits. Have you played the Super Nintendo port by any chance?
I've seen footage on it.
Okay.
I've seen footage before, and it looks okay. I
Yeah.
mean,
I can hear it in your voice. You're not like all that thrilled with it.
Yeah. I don't think it's awful. I mean, obviously there are way better, shmups on Super Nintendo, especially some really sexy looking ones, man. Like R-Type 3 looks absolutely impeccable.
For sure, yeah. I was just curious if you played that, how it compares. Like, I was just kind of getting into like, okay, what does the Genesis do better in terms of shoot 'em ups? What makes the Genesis do shoot 'em ups better than any other system? I mean, obviously, number one's probably the speed, of everything. But what in your opinion makes it? What else is there that makes it better, if anything? Maybe there's nothing.
Well, I can say that. I'll tell you what, man. I think I should say this first. I think that both Super Nintendo and Genesis, like at their best, have amazing shmups, right?
There might be some Genesis fanboys that might punch you in the face for saying that, for daring to say that any Super Nintendo shoot 'em up was better than any Genesis shoot 'em up. How dare you?
They both have their strengths, man. I tend to see it like that. I want. You also need to think about one thing too: the developers behind them. That
That's
matters
a great
lot.
point. Yeah, for sure.
That matters a lot. Like, yeah, okay, maybe Technosoft or whoever ported that version of Thunder Force to the SNES, maybe he was drinking that day. Something happened, but something must have happened clearly. But what really makes a shmup work on Genesis is indeed the speed. Like, yeah. Some games on Genesis will have a moment of slowdown. It has happened, like, believe it or not. And Thunder Force 4 is one of those games that it has happened, but it's not enough to detract the experience either. It's not enough to be like, oh, this game sucks. Like, nah, man, like, it's still a great game regardless of the fact. That's what makes them just. In order to really get in the mindset of making a good shmup, you gotta really take a good look at some of the developers making them, and also their interviews, man. There's a lot of interviews with these guys, and they talk about how they're working around like the constraints of the hardware, and and all the challenges and hurdles that come with it. But the Genesis is known for a lot of good shmups because, frankly, the processor, which it's the CPU, right? It does have a lot to do with it, the speed, and it's also because it's a bit easier to program for. A lot of the arcade, the Sega arcade games are ported to Genesis because it has like some of the same architecture. That's why it's so easy to do it. And just the assembly, the coding, it is a lot easier. A lot of developers have commented on that, saying, yeah, once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy to grasp for them.
That's definitely true. It's even true with PC ports going from computer, like from the Amiga or from the Atari ST or something like that, going to that 6800 processor. It's a lot easier, whereas it seems like Nintendo kind of had their own thing going. I'm lucky enough to be friendly with a few people on the I have my SNES Drunk Discord. There are people there that are very affluent in terms of programming and that sort of thing. And they often talk about like how much of a pain in the ass it is to program for Super Nintendo and N64 and all that stuff. And they're just like, no wonder nobody wanted to work with these people, because you have to learn an entirely new thing to just make games. And it's like, these guys just want to make games, and of course they wanted to where the money was in the Nintendo brand for sure, so they would make sure to do that. But if they wanted an easier time of it, they would definitely go to that that easier processor, the 6800 with Genesis.
Yeah, a lot of it's just that a lot of arcade boards used it. Like it was a pretty flexible processor, for a lot of these guys. So it was just a given to just port it to the Genesis and just let it run there. But yeah, man, I definitely don't want people to get the impression that the Super Nintendo, doesn't have competent shoot 'em ups. Like they do, absolutely they do. It's just maybe not as much as Genesis, but they do. And R-Type 3 is one of those, I feel.
Very cool, man. You change gears here a little bit. You brought up, we talked about Thunder Force there briefly, and is the intro to that you use on your channel, isn't that like a metal rendition of a Thunder Force 4 track?
That is correct. Yes.
Right. So
yes, it is.
Yeah, I wanted to mention like the intros to your videos have this bombastic music that just kicks my ass every time. Like whether it's that blaring cover metal rendition of the Thunder Force 4 track or something from the game, is just so well done, and it's such a good hook for me. What game do you think has the most kickin' soundtrack on the Genesis?
That's a tough question.
Stem to Stern, by the way, the whole soundtrack. And I did Google while we were hanging out here. Stem to Stern is a boat reference, SNES Drunk. So you win that. You win that round. It's not a botany reference. But anyway, go ahead.
It was a ye old, I believe it's an old wooden ship. Like one of those Anchorman type things.
Well, good job. You got that one. So Stem to Stern, what's the best soundtrack for the Genesis, do you think?
Man, these are some difficult questions.
Gotcha.
You know what, man? There's just so many, and I like music a lot. So it's so difficult. I even write some of my own Genesis music sometimes, every now and then, and it's so hard to pick just one.
Can you pick three?
I can give you three good ones.
Okay,
sure.
Perfect.
I can do that. Okay, Thunder Force 4, without a doubt. I guess that was a given.
Right.
If I had to pick another one, I would probably go with Revenge of Shinobi.
How dare... I'm just kidding. I just wanted to do that just once. I'm sorry.
And you know what? I'll give you something a little less known, but still pretty kick-ass. I'll definitely give you Langrisser too.
Oh, I know exactly where. Yeah, nice. That's a good pick. Have not played that in a really long time, but that's a really good one because
Yes.
I had somebody request that game a really long time ago, telling me like, "Hey, this game, hey, this game is way better on Genesis than it is on Super Nintendo, or on I guess in this case it would be Super Famicom." And I was like, "Holy crap! This soundtrack sounds like 1,000 times better on Genesis." And yeah, for sure, that's a great pick.
Yeah, those were 3 good choices. I really enjoyed all that. So speaking of that, so it seems like you like the high action games, you like the high action music. Does that are your other tastes there too? Like, are you into heavy metal bands and stuff like that? Are those your influence? Like, what's your musical influence? I guess that's what I'm trying to ask.
I mean, I like rock a lot. Don't get me wrong. I couldn't tell you what a Judas Priest is or anything, but like, but I am a fan of rock. Yes, I do love, but I love all kinds of music. If anything, I'm really a big hip hop fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that shine
Couldn't
through in a
really
lot
tell
of the
you.
original music that you create?
When I was younger and used to make I used to sample a lot of music and make beats in like FL Studio and stuff. But eventually, though, I did start writing try to write like some generic video game music, and I chose the Genesis as the template for the sounds, and I really just enjoy like a loopy video game like song,
Mm-hmm.
like something that loops real easily. Like that's kind of what I tend to write a lot when it comes to Genesis music. But I'm not very good at writing like that super high octane stuff.
Right.
Like I'm not, absolutely not. I leave that to the pros.
Like that Blazing Chrome type soundtrack.
Yeah,
Like those guys.
like-
yeah.
Maybe every now and then you might you might get me on a really good day, on a really just with some great luck, I might write something decent in that regard. But most of the time it's pretty like it's okay stuff. I'm all right.
Do you follow any chiptune artists or anything like that?
Chiptune on SoundCloud, I do follow some people, and a lot of these guys are just like you and me, man. They're fans. But if there's one person I do want to say, it's a Savage Regime on YouTube.
Okay.
That guy is the best. I'm gonna tell you right now, man. That guy is the best when it comes to making like FM covers and even some new original Mega Drive music. I mean, he did the score for Xenocrisis. It was really good.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's the Xenocrisis guy. Okay, I did not know that.
Yeah. So Savage Regime, I'd go with him if there's one person I can choose.
Nice. That is a game that I need to get into for sure.
It's a great game.
Yeah.
We're freaking hard. I'll tell you that. Yeah.
I haven't
like,
really
it's difficult.
gotten into it yet. Have you? So, well, okay, let's go into that. What do you think of Xenocrisis? What do you think of like any of those homebrew type games that are out there now?
Well, I can't tell you that I played all of them. There's been several that have been released or are being announced and stuff. The ones that I played were Xenocrisis, and I eventually planned to also play Tanzer. That was another one. But just like my channel, like what it's all about, and I tend to just focus more on like the action-oriented titles. There's been other games like Tanglewood, which look good, and don't get me wrong, they look great. They look, that they have quality to them and whatnot. Not really the kind of game that I would particularly like, display, or make a video for.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Xenocrisis is concerned, yes, I did beat it. There is an easy difficulty, and then there's the hard mode. And the only way to get the good ending is to beat it on hard.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Yikes.
And it's hard. Like it's, if I can be honest, it's got to be one of the hardest Genesis games I've played. Like no doubt, it's pretty tough. Yeah, and I beat the Adventures of Batman and Robin. That was another. That was hell. That was hell on earth. I wouldn't wish that on anybody, dude. Like, don't. If you're gonna review that game, I wouldn't even blame you if you just said, you know what, fuck it. I couldn't even finish this game. Like, I'm just going to tell you right now I couldn't, because I practiced. No matter how much I practiced, like, I did beat it, but it was just so difficult, dude. Like, you get to a point where you're just like, am I okay? Like, what am I doing?
I was gonna say, give me
so hard.
Give me your top 4 toughest Genesis games that you've beaten, because
yeah, man. But Xenocrisis is awesome. You guys should play it.
Yeah,
I think it's just great, man. Bitmap Bureau, they did an awesome job. I should have been reviewed that game. Like, I had it in the back burner for so long. I even have the footage, but I never got around to writing the script because I'm just weird. Like, my process is so weird.
Where does that fall, like, on your, like, hierarchy of toughest games you've beaten? Like, what's your top 4?
You said the top 4 of the hardest?
Top 4 of the hardest games you've beaten, like, within that Genesis sphere of games. Like, I'm talking Adventures of Batman and Robin, like, all that stuff. Xenocrisis, all that stuff.
Oh, man. Okay.
What else would you put in that category?
Undead Line on Genesis. That game is hard as hell.
What is that? Undead
Line. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a pretty, it's pretty obscure, but it was hard, man. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of Elemental Master before on Genesis.
I have, yeah. I've played a bunch of that, actually, yeah.
Okay, it's similar to that game.
Huh.
And it was one of those games that, like I said, dude, I don't think I ever got past the second stage. Like, I don't think I ever got past the second stage for, like, the longest time. It took me a while to beat that game. That was just one of those games that I couldn't do for the life of me. Like, yo, this is hard as hell. Mm-hmm. And I thought I was decent at games, right? But then I played that, and I'm like, yeah, these guys, those Japanese guys, they're crazy, man. I can't do this.
Yeah,
can't do this.
I'm looking at a screenshot of it now. It looks awesome. It's like a shoot 'em up in, like, a graveyard. That's so cool. Yeah. Too bad I won't see much of the game because I'm not good at games like this. But
I know, right? I'm freaking terrible at games like this. That's why I'm asking.
Well, yeah, man. Undead Line. Let's see, because I said Batman. Okay, Batman, Xenocrisis, Undead Line. It's pretty difficult to choose. There's some pretty hard ones.
Bubsy.
I never played that game, but I hear so much.
Oh, it's terrible. Shaq Fu. We going Shaq Fu? Is this the part of the podcast where I have to defend Shaq Fu again?
Are you going to defend it?
Yeah, I don't think it's one of the worst games ever.
Oh, it's not one of the worst, but
yeah, no, I think it's fine. I don't think it's bad. No, I should say that. I think it's bad. I don't think it's that bad.
Right. That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Okay, you know what, dude? Eliminate Down. Yeah, that was tough, too.
Oh, yeah. No, that game kicked my ass. Yeah, that was one of those games I played for like 10 minutes. And I was like, nope, I'm done.
Yeah, dude, Eliminate Down. That was another... I guess I shouldn't be too surprised. I mean, the guys who made it, like, were really big fans of R-Type. So they copied that game to a T.
Oh, my God. The R-Type guys are just sadists, I swear. They're crazy people.
Was that 4? That probably was.
Might as well be. I mean, I think anything that mentions R-Type counts as 4. So there you go. Those guys are crazy. Like, by the way, MDP, I really need to ask this because I just got one of these emails today. Have you gotten a Raid Shadows Legend email yet?
Oh, dude, I'm not that popular. There's no way I would get that. Like...
Come on. Yes, you are. You are. I'm insulted on your behalf that you have not gotten a Raid Shadow Legends email yet, because I got one today, and I'm just like... Come on, people. Like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Like, I've gotten, I swear to God, I've gotten like 12 of these emails saying, we just need a 60 to 90 second promo starting around 45 seconds to 1:30 into your video, presenting the key talking points. It's just like, you guys would get the I don't know. I'm just
Do they
bullshitting.
realize that they're like a meme now or something?
I don't think they do. That's the thing. That's what blows my mind is they don't. They're completely unself-aware. And it's like they don't know and they don't care. And that's why I wanted to bring it up because I think it's really funny. So.
You just wanted to brag on your raid status, man.
Oh, please.
The rest of us can't get these. When we get those emails, we'll know.
No,
we've made it.
it has nothing to do with status. It has everything to do with these people being idiots.
If I ever get that email, though.
Oh, please, just send it to everybody. We'll have a big laugh.
Oh man.
I think it's time to have some listener questions here.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so the first question we have is from Chris S. And I have to admit, Mr. MDP, we've got some Super Nintendo centric questions here. So I apologize in advance.
Nah, you're fine. This is my time to talk shit, so let's do it.
How dare you? Okay, so Chris S. says, what Super Nintendo games do you think deserve a modern sequel or remaster similar to what Link's Awakening got? Who wants to go first?
I don't know. Well, I know there's already a sequel to this game that exists, but I think it would be kind of kick-ass for like a VR Pilot Wings or something to really turn your stomach upside down. Bring the Pilot Wings back, man. With the fidelity we have today and some of the technology, it could be cool.
What was the last Pilot Wings game that we got? Was it like 3DS or something like that?
I don't even know. I was thinking Pilot Wings 64 was the only one I could remember. But
was it 64? Yeah.
I give it a Google here.
Give it a good old Google.
Give it a good Google.
That's a good suggestion considering the functionality that game would have now. Holy cow. Like I would not ever can you imagine the skydiving portion of that with VR capabilities? No thanks.
I'm in for it though. I'll get something to suspend me from the ceiling so I'm not touching the floor. Just hold my arms out and just float down. Then my cat will touch my leg and I'll scream.
We'll go to Home Depot and buy a shitload of fans to simulate the effect of you falling from the sky.
That's a really good idea.
Oh my god. I think I would go. My normal answer to this is ActRaiser. Just because ActRaiser is one of those like unfulfilled ambition games. It's one of those games that was super ambitious at the time and didn't reach its full potential. But in the spirit of this podcast, I will say R-Type 3. Let's give R-Type 3 a modern sequel or a remaster. Actually, you know what? No, not R-Type 3. My favorite Super Nintendo shoot-'em-up ever is Axelay. That's my favorite. Let's give that one a modern sequel. Let's give it a remaster, whatever. That game is awesome. I think it needs like a full reboot. Like I'm talking HD graphics, all that stuff. Especially with the boss design in that game. It's super cool. The level design is really clever. I really like that game. I would love to see that. What about you, MDP? What do you think should get what old game do you think should get a modern sequel or a remaster?
Does that have to be Super Nintendo?
No, it can be whatever you want. You can betray the email entirely. I'm just kidding.
I would like another Rystar, actually. They should have made it. They should have made another one or a remaster or something. But yeah, they should have done more with that.
That's a good choice because that game, that's all there is of that game, right?
Yep.
It's just
that's
that
right.
one.
That's right.
And that game is considered, would you call it one of the 20, 25 best?
Yeah, I would put it up there, yeah, actually.
Yeah. why wouldn't it get a sequel or a remaster or something? Yeah, I think that's a super high quality choice for sure.
Yeah, agreed. It's also I think even though it's pretty popular amongst folks like us, I still think it's kind of unknown to the casual population. I think it's a game that could, if it were brought back in some way, could really really kick up its popularity. I think it deserves a little more attention.
Yes, absolutely.
I think the reason it kind of didn't, in my opinion, is because I think people are kind of burnt out on the platformer mascot guy. It's like, oh, here's a happy little star guy with arms and legs, and he's got a happy face and blah, blah, blah.
But he's grabby. Like, he's got a real grabby mechanic.
He's got a real... It's like, I think people are kind of burnt out on that at that point, and so it got kind of buried at that point. So
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, for at the time, yeah, it was totally buried.
It's like, what else can you do with this? I'm reminded of Donkey Kong Country 3 when that came out, and the whole attitude toward that game was like, all right, fine, another Donkey Kong Country game. Really? We got to do this again?
Because we will like it, but damn it, we don't want to have to play it.
Exactly, yeah. And that's kind of how I feel about stuff like Rice Star, where it's like, okay, fine. But no, it absolutely deserves more exposure, for sure.
Yeah. By the way, are the which Donkey Kong game do you think is the best?
For me, I'm going the second game. I think it's it might be one of the 5, definitely one of the 10, maybe one of the 5 best Super Nintendo games ever.
Wow.
For the level design, it's one of those games. The way I think of Donkey Kong Country 2 is it's like how an author, when they write a book, when they write a book, it's like they start with the ending first and they write backwards. It's like that's how I feel Donkey Kong Country 2 was approached. Like, they thought of the end of each level first, and then they kind of built around that. So that's my choice. 3 seems like it was almost like oh, how far can we push this concept? And 1 was just, hey, look at these graphics. Sorry, but I'm not that fond of 1. But 2, I think, is a masterpiece. 1 is whatever, and 3 is kind of the end of the rope. But yeah, that's my. What do you think, Trav?
Are we on Donkey Kong? Yeah, I like the first one a lot. I think it's mostly nostalgic, but I know that game inside and out, and that usually helps you like a game more if you feel like you kind of own it. And the music's pretty cool. The second one I enjoyed, but it kicked my ass. It's so hard, like that castle.
It is
section.
Really hard, yeah.
All I can remember is just being angry at it. But I think what you said is valid. Like it's definitely a better made game, 100%. But stuff. The third one I haven't really played, but it did feel tacked on. So we have another question from another Travis, which is a great name. Good job, Travis.
Wait a second, Travis,
incredible name. It's a strong name.
There's only supposed to be never mind.
He asks what games best use the SNES controller layout. He suggests maybe Smash TV, and which had to compromise. And he suggests Street Fighter, the Street Fighters rather. Do you have an answer for this? I'm assuming SNES Drunk, you're going to have the best library of knowledge for answering this.
This dude already answered this. It's Smash TV. It's perfect.
Yeah.
The fact that you can use a dual stick control, dual joysticks for Smash TV with both the D-pad and the way the
like the face buttons.
The face buttons are laid out. It's perfect.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I don't have anything to top that, but what most has to compromise, I don't understand why he said Street Fighter, or why I don't get why is that an issue? Like that always felt totally fine to me personally. But if it came to compromise, it's always something like Lemmings for me, something that had to use mouse controls.
Populous.
Or like Yes, or like SimCity, or I hated the fact that you had to use the D-pad as a mouse, cursor or something like that. That drove me insane. I hated that.
MDP, do you have any answer coming from your own system of choice? Do you have one that just nails the limited button layout of the 3-button Genesis controller?
The system of choice that shall not be named.
Okay, can you repeat that? Because I got so sidetracked when you brought up the Smash TV. So what was the question exactly? Just to make sure.
So is there a game that that best uses the controller for you we can say the Genesis if you'd like. And maybe you can even extend it to the 3-button or the 6-button. Like, is there any games that really nail the way that controller can be used, or are there any that suck because of it? Like, from my own experience, I think Zombies Ate My Neighbors kind of suffers a little bit with the 3-button Genesis controller because of the way you have to switch your weapon choices. I don't even know if it works with the 6-button, but do you have any answers like that come to mind?
I'm trying to think. There are games that could definitely benefit from having a 6-button controller. I could tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there are some games that you would have to press the mode button to, for like Street Fighter. If you had a 3-button, you would, I think you would have to press the mode button in order to get to the other moves. But yeah, man, I guess I don't really have a great answer at the moment, but I know there are some games that would actually benefit from having like a 6-button layout instead of a 3-button, especially the fighting games. Those are, I think they're almost necessary to have a 6-button for. But yeah, man, but if you're stuck with a 3-button on a fighting game, yeah, you're gonna have to be pressing that mode button, man, to get to. Yeah, it's gonna be your best friend.
No doubt. All right, I think we've reached the end of our interview here. Is there anything coming up for your channel that you can maybe clue listeners on that you're working on? If you'd like to share that, or anything that you want to plug besides your YouTube channel.
Well, I guess the only thing I can really say is that I'm working on a Xenocrisis video that's coming up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, finally gonna finish that up. It's been in the log for a while, and I got some more Mega Drive videos coming along, and I also have another main profile coming out soon. Nice. So be on the lookout for that.
Very cool.
Nice. I know arcade games are the best, man.
Very cool. Yeah, we're excited for that. All right. Well, that's been another Drunk Friend podcast. Be sure to check out polykill.com to find more podcasts like this one. I'm going to plug a little bit. More podcasts like the Polykill Podcast, where my pal Jake and I have a lot of fun chatting about the games we're playing, and we try to make it pretty fun. That's a 2-time Cartridge Club Podcast of the Year award-winning show, so please check that out. And once again, reach out to us at drunkfriendpodcast@gmail.com. You could drop us a line, ask a question to be read on the show, or just anything.
If you'd simply like to help out the show, remember to rate and review us wherever you listen.
We're on Twitter as well. I'm at Trav Plays Games. Alex is, of course, at SNES Drunk, and Mega Drive Profile is at Mega Drive Pro.
And as always, we want to give a shout out to Coolor for the podcast music. The song you heard is called Electric Star Bounce. And you can find a link to more of his music on the Buzzsprout podcast page.
That's right. Be sure to catch us all on YouTube, and thanks for listening.
And we hope you have a great rest of your day. Cheers!